Yasodhanandana Brajajanarandana Yasodhanandana Brajajanarandana Yasodhanandana Brajajanarandana Yasodhanandana Brajajanarandana Kunjabina Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasavito Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasavito Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padamaram Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Saprijatam Sarana Raghunatamvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lita Shri Vishaka Vitamsha Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanaswate Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namah Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasavadiko Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you for coming for today's evening Bhagavad Gita discussion on chapter 6, text 18 to 23. यदा विनीतं चित्तम् यदा विनियतं चित्तम् आत्मन्येवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त उच्यते इत्युच्यते तदा यदा विनीतं चित्तम् आत्मन्येवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा Translation. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, reward of all material desires. The transcendence means the temporary desires. Because the soul being eternal, it cannot be happy with material desires. He is said to be well established in yoga. Just like if you are going to some destination, on the route, so many stations will come. If you get distracted and get down in one of those stations, then there's no way that you can reach the goal. So likewise, the goal of the soul is eternal happiness, knowledge, and eternal existence. But in that process, while trying to achieve that goal, if he gets distracted by these temporary goals, then he loses the purpose of yoga.
So in this shloka, what is being discussed is the advanced stage. So in the previous shlokas, we have discussed the earlier stages, the beginning stages, and now we are discussing the advanced stages. So here it is, what is mentioned is that perfection, how we can get perfection in Ashtanga Yoga, which is the requirement, disciplining mental activities or consciousness. That is the first requirement. Second, being fixed in the self or transcendence. Third, devoid of all material desires. It is because of harmony. Example of this is just as a lamp in a windless space does not waver. So the yogi whose mind is controlled, yatha chittasya, remains steady in his meditation of the self. So in this shloka, we are discussing how the mind remains steady when we are able to control the desires, which is Nisriha Sarvakamiya. Once the mind becomes, by meditation, the mind becomes devoid of all material desires, then, and that happens when one is very disciplined, one has to discipline the mental activities or consciousness. It may be easier to discipline the physical activities. When we wake up at a particular time, we have our routine, whatever is the daily routine, we follow that routine. But disciplining the mental activities is the more difficult thing to do. And that is the beginning of advancement in Ashtanga. The first thing we need to do is we need to control the mind, which is disciplining the mental activities for consciousness.
So in the purport here, a very practical way of engaging the mind is explained. Because if the mind is not engaged properly, the alternative is to get carried away by this fleeting desires. The example of King Ambarisha, who is an emperor, Emperor means obviously he has so many things to fulfill. Not only for himself, for citizens, he has to do so many things. It's a very responsible position being an emperor. At the same time, he's a devotee. So how does he execute his daily duties is very nicely explained. That first he fixing his mind on the feet of Lord Krishna. What does it mean fixing the mind? Which means whatever thoughts is coming to him, they are directed by the Lord, because he is trying to fulfill the mission of Lord Krishna. And then he's talking about his words. The tongue has two functions. One is to speak and another is to taste. The faculty of speech is using to glorify the Lord. And then he's using his hands to clean the temple. Although he's the king, he does this menial service. So when you clean the temple, our heart also gets cleansed. And his ears he is using in hearing the activities of the Lord. There are so many activities of the Lord eternal going on. So when we hear that, that is also devotional service. And his eyes is viewing and seeing the forms of the Lord. So many deity forms of the Lord are there. So he's using the eyes for the birds. And his body touching the bodies of the devotees. What does it mean? We have to constantly interact with the devotees in some physical service. Within that process, we come in contact with the devotees in close proximity. Then his smelling sense is using it to smell the flowers which have been offered to the deity and tulsi leaves. And the tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves. Because that is the simplest offering. Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Of course, we can offer opulent foodstuffs and taste the remnants. That is the engagement of the tongue. And then the feet we used to travel to the temple of the Lord, the holy places. And then his head in offering obeisances. Because head is where all the thoughts are coming and ego is residing. So if we bow down the head before the deity and the devotees, then our become humble. And his desires, that is the nature of the mind, executing the mission of the Lord. He's always thinking, what does the Lord want from me? What should I be doing now? How I should be doing? So this is how he's engaging the mind. And he has no interest separate from the interest of the Lord. So that is the transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. So in contrast to this, there are some people who don't know that God is a person. He has a form, name, qualities, and activities. Just like if you don't know whom you are going to marry, if I say so and so, but then there's not possibility of establishing a relationship or what you should do for that person, what I should do. This will not be very clear unless you have a personal relationship. So devotion means practical engagement in devotional service. So we have to engage the entire senses and the mind in the service of the Lord.
Hey Krishna, so one question that may arise whenever we see this part of Bhagavad Maharaj's lifestyle, that we are also engaging in the service of the Lord. We are also going to temple. We are also doing some service, like with our hands. We are also giving prasad. Then what is the difference? Why is it that we are not getting the benefit which Ambrish Maharaj did? The difference is that Ambrish Maharaj is what he did. We are able to do maybe seeing the TPs we are doing all the other things, seeing, hearing, kirtan, doing kirtan, doing japa, tasting prasadam, all that we are doing. Going to the temple, doing some menial service. The difference is his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. We have our desires. After doing all that, we have not been able to give up our desires. Whereas Amrish Maharaj could even obtain his desires to execute the mission of the Lord. When we achieve this, then the rest of it becomes perfect. It becomes of pure devotee. These are the transcendental activities which are befitting of pure devotee.
So one word is used here known as Archana. Archana means our offering, whatever is we are getting from God, you offer it back to him in service. So otherwise, you become entangled in the reactions of that activity. Just like if you are taking money from the government, you are used to use it, you are permitted to use it for some purpose. Then you show the accounts for that, then you are free. So similarly, when all these facilities have been provided by God and we engage them properly in a service, then it becomes an act of devotion. Any questions here? So each one of you, any of this you are doing? Any one of them? One of whatever Ambarish Maharaj did, any of you are engaged?
None of that you are doing. How is it possible? You're not chanting. You're chanting, no? You are doing, no? Not that level, but it's not that you're not doing anything, no?
यतो दीपो निवातस्तो
यथा दीपो निवातस्तो
यथा दीपो निवातस्तो
यथा दीपो निवातस्तो
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
योगिनो यत चित्तस्य
योगिनो यत चित्तस्य
योगिनो यत चित्तस्य
योगिनो यत चित्तस्य
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
यथा दीपो निवातस्तो
यथा दीपो निवातस्तो
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
योगिनो यत चित्तस्य
योगिनो यत चित्तस्य
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः.
योगमात्मनः.
So again, one more example is given. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver. So what is the analogy to show that in a windless place, the lamp is steady. It can give heat and light properly. So how to create such a situation where our mind is not disturbed? So that requires practice. As you can see later, Krishna is instructing Arjuna by suitable practice and detachment. The mind can be brought to this situation. Just like now around us, so many things are going on. So, but we are continuing with our work. The transcendentalist whose mind is controlled, how is he able to control his mind? With proper intelligence. How is the intelligence under control? Through proper ego. He is always understanding who he is, what he is supposed to do. And then why is his ego proper? Because of proper consciousness. Why is proper consciousness? Because he is in Krishna consciousness. He is aware of the Supreme Lord. So this connection, his mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendental self. So ultimately, who is the beneficiary in this process? He is the benefiter. For his own benefit, he has to do all this. Person, truly Krishna conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence and constant, undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord. So he is always aware what he is supposed to do. If you go around, you see people what they are doing. They are trying to enjoy, but what is happening? They are trying so many things, going here, going there, seeing this, seeing that, hearing this, hearing that. They are not able to fix it. So what happens? Actually, they don't get happiness. Although the attempt is to get happiness by doing so many things, because the mind is not fixed, there is no scope for happiness. Whereas the transcendentalist, because he is always meditating on the plan of the Lord, and the Lord is always peaceful, because of that connection, he also becomes peaceful. Analogy is given, just like a lamp is there, it can give the maximum brightness and warmth or heat when it is steady. and further it won't get extinguished. So these are some points in this.
So, Hare Krishna. So this example of the lamp, which is going, the light of the lamp goes absolutely straight towards the ceiling, and there is no disturbance, and there is no wind. So the wind to control the wind or the external environment. The wind signifies the external environment, and the lamp signifies our concentration. So controlling the external environment is more difficult for us. As in, the problem is we constantly try to control the external environment, whereas what we need to concentrate on is controlling the internal environment, our mind. If we are able to control the internal environment, the external will not bother us. And one of the examples that we just did, we were trying to put the petals, so I think there are less colors today. We were trying to put the petals on the trees, and because of the fan, the petals were flying away. So the solution was to switch off the fan. This is possible, like in a very small example. But when it comes to life, it is not always possible. And how does one keep the mind always steady in meditation of the transcendental self? The practical example of that is Prahlad Maharaj. 5-year-old kid, own father, own house, own father is trying to give him one after the other, different ways. If he wavered at all from concentrating on the Supreme Lord, he would have died. There were so many ways in which people were actively trying to kill him. His own father tried to kill him, but he did not deviate. He didn't even think my father is trying to do harm to me. He was very steady, concentrating on the Lord. And because he was concentrating on the Lord was taking care of everything else. This is the way in which we can control the external environment by controlling the internal environment.
So another way to control the mind is detachment. So what is detachment? Mind can detach only when it has proper attachment. That is the only way to detach the mind. So mind needs engagement constantly. Yatro paramate chittam.
Yatro paramate chittam.
Yatro paramate chittam.
Yatro paramate chittam.
Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam.
Pashyan atmani tushyati.
Pashyan atmani tushyati.
Pashyan atmani tushyati.
Pashyan atmani tushyati.
Yatro paramate chittam.
Yatro paramate chittam.
Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam.
Pashyan atmani tushyati.
Pashyan atmani tushyati.
Sukham atyantikam yatta.
Sukham atyata yatta.
Sukham atyantikam yatta.
Sukham atyantikam yatta.
Buddhigrahyam atindriyam.
Buddhigrahyam atindriyam.
Buddhigrahyam atindriyam.
Buddhigrahyam atindriyam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam.
Stitas chalati tatvatam.
Sthitash chalati tatvatah.
Stitas chalati tatvatah.
Sthitash chalati tatvatah.
Sukham atyantikam yatta.
Sukham atyantikam yatta.
Buddhigrayam atindriyam.
Buddhigrahyam atindriyam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam.
Veti yatra na chaivayam.
Stitas chalati tatvatah.
Sthitash chalati tatvatah.
Yam labdva chaparam labham.
Yam labdva cha param labham.
Yam labdva chaparam labham.
Yam labdva cha param labham.
Manyatenādikam tadaha.
Manyatenādhikam tataha.
Manyatenādikam tadaha.
Manyatenādhikam tataha.
Yasmin sthito na dukkena.
Yasmin sthito na dukkhena.
Yasmin sthito na dukkena.
Yasmin sthito na dukkhena.
Gurunapi vichalyate.
Gurunapi vichalyate.
Gurunapi vichalyate.
Gurunapi vichalyate.
Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga.
Tam vidya dukkha sanyoga.
Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga.
Tam vidya dukkha sanyoga.
Viyogam yoga sanyitam.
Viyogam yoga samhitam.
Viyogam yoga samhitam.
Viyogam yoga samhitam.
Yatra, in that state of affairs where uparamate cease because one feels transcendental happiness. So, chittam, mental activities, viruddham, being restrained from matter, yoga sevaya, by performance of yoga, yatra, in which cha also, eva, certainly, atmana, by the pure mind, atmanam, the self, passion, realizing the position of. In the stage of perfection called trance. So as we are talking about the eightfold yoga system, we have yama, niyama, asana, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind completely is restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. Just like an iron rod is there, you put it in fire, it acquires the fiery properties of the, although it is iron. Similarly, the mind, although it is material, because it is always meditating on the Supreme Lord, it becomes spiritual. And then these activities which are material get transformed into spiritual activities. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind. So then what is the pure, see the self mean? He understands who he really is. That is, his real ego becomes awakened by the pure mind. So when the mind is pure, because the senses are pure, the mind becomes pure and the intelligence becomes pure, the ego is pure, then the consciousness becomes aware. And to relish, so the nature of the soul is happiness, Satchit Ananda. Because the soul has become pure, he is able to naturally relish and rejoice in the self. So the moment he realizes himself, he is also able to realize God and his connection with God, his relationship with God, and how to love God. So then this happiness comes naturally without any effort. In this world, if you want some happiness, we have to endeavor with all our senses, mind, intelligence, and ego. Even to get happiness, you have to have a false ego. But in this case, one is situated in boundless. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness. So what kind of happiness is this? There's no end to that happiness. In this material world, the happiness is flickering. Even that so-called happiness is an absence of suffering. But in this experience is that it is unending happiness, realized through transcendental senses. What happens is senses also become aware of the sources of happiness. Earlier it was explained that the senses become the sources of suffering. Just like an enemy, he tries to enter the fort. The senses are the weak points through which the enemy will capture a person. But the same senses become source of pleasure because he starts seeing the world as the source of happiness now in this condition, realized through transcendental senses. And established thus, one never departs from the truth. So what is the truth? The truth is that he is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Why? Because even if you gain everything, if you lose the soul, then it is no use. So if you have the soul and don't have anything else, that is the real success, because the soul really doesn't need anything in this world. Being situated in such position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. So, what is the source of the greatest difficulty? The same senses and the mind, the intelligence in ego, they become the source of great difficulty. But since now they have become transcendental, they become the source of pleasure for him. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from the material contact. So, what we think is the source of pleasure becomes the source of misery in this world, unless uh, the mind is transformed.
Hare Krishna. So this section 18 to 23 is discussing the yoga rule stage, the higher stages of Ashtanga Yoga. So here we are discussing what happens in the state of perfection or Samadhi. So as you know, what are the stages of Ashtanga? Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So we are talking about Samadhi now. So when we reach the perfectional stage called trance or Samadhi, the mind is completely restrained from mental activities by the practice of yoga. It requires a lot of practice to be able to reach this stage, because the mind is completely restrained from material mental activities. It is not that there are no mental activities, it is not shunya, but there is no material mental activity. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self. So when we are completely devoid of material activities, we are in touch with our own self. So there are three levels of realization, which is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. We are reaching that stage where the self means we are able to connect with the Brahman realization and also with the Paramatma realization. There are two types of Samadhi. One type of Samadhi is Sampragyata, the other is Asampragyata. In the Sampragyata type of Samadhi, what happens is we are able to connect to, when we are meditating on gross objects, and through that, we are reaching a state where all material desires get over, and we are able to realize God. Whereas in the Asampragyata method of Samadhi, we are not thinking of anything, it is like shooting. It is completely making the mind blank. That is obviously a more difficult way of doing things. And in that, making the mind blank, you know, how important, how difficult it is. Try just sitting for 2 minutes. You can put a stopwatch, even 1 minute. Like sometimes it happens to some dignitary or some colleague in office expires. So we have a 1 minute silence. And everybody will stand at one particular time, and we all assemble in one place and that 1 minute silence. And that 1 minute is the longest minute of the day. You can see so many people are moving, fidgeting, or trying to check their phones, or putting their eyes and see what others are doing. Because that 1 minute becomes so long. That 1 minute of silence, of trying to, because most of us do not know that. We have just heard one name. And out of respect for the person, we are supposed to put our heads down and keep quiet. So that keeping quiet, and basically you're not even trying to concentrate on the person, but just keeping quiet for 1 minute, I've seen the reactions that happen. And it is very difficult. So to do this Sampragyata Samadhi would be very, very difficult, because it is Shunyata. That is not something that I can imagine. But there are a lot of people who aspire for it. And there are people who try to create, they try to train you towards that.
I have one many times, I've seen one time also. Some sadhus have different samadhis about that, and about this is the same one.
It doesn't matter where you're taking Samadhi, because there are so many instances where sadhu has taken Samadhi in the water. The sadhu sees foolish popularity and there goes material desire comes, now I want to get married. So next day he comes himself in front of one king, I want to marry your daughter. So that samadhi is not asamantita. What was that sadhu? Sorry. So then all these instances are mentioned in the Bhagavatam, and there is one more instance to hear popularity, and then that's sadhu also. And then Ajamil is the biggest story. But when we say this story of Ajamil, everybody starts aspiring to become Ajamil. Whatever I do in my life doesn't matter. At the end of the life, I can simply remember Krishna. Formula understood, that's it. But it doesn't happen in everybody's life. Ajamil was a free. So we should not aim to become Ajamil. We should aim to become devotees. But okay, we'll come to those stories later. Right now, Bhagavad Gita. So what happens is in this kind of what are the realizations in perfection? The realizations that happen. Okay, we start with what is the perfection of Ashtanga Yoga, which is the Yukta part, which is disciplining the mental activities of consciousness. We already discussed that land in the this place. The second part, what is the realization in perfection of Ashtanga Yoga? The consciousness is completely restrained from material mental activities. One can see the self by pure mind and be satisfied with it. So we are able to connect with the self in the true sense. We can see the self. Who has seen yourself? We can say, I've seen myself in the mirror. You have seen an image in the mirror of the body. And you see the self. By now we know we are not the body. We are somebody who lives in the body. Have we seen ourselves? No, we have not seen. But if you do this kind of samadhi, when you reach the stage of samadhi of Ashtanga Yoga, we can see ourselves by the pure mind and we can become satisfied with it. One gets boundless spiritual bliss by spiritual intelligence, not material senses. One is never deviated from the truth of one's spiritual nature. Having obtained this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Naturally, if somebody has worked so hard to control the mind and to reach the stage where one is able to connect with his own self and see the self with a pure mind, and at that stage, he also gets a lot of spiritual bliss by spiritual intelligence. From a material point of view, that person's body may have become completely diseased. A lot of diseases will be there, but from a spiritual intelligence, he gets spiritual bliss. He is never deviated from the truth of one's spiritual nature. And having attained this, he will think naturally that there is no greater gain. Situated in full determination, one is never shaken, even in the greatest of difficulty. And again, I'm coming back to the example of Prahlad Maharaj. The greatest test of difficulties possible, he was not shaken, he was undeviated. So again, I'm discussing a little bit about Sampratyata Samadhi. It involves meditation on various gross or subtle objects. One comes from transcendental position by various philosophical researchers. So it involves a lot of brain, it involves a lot of philosophy, and different philosophies one discusses or one does research on and arrives at the Supreme. So it involves meditation on various gross and subtle objects. So we start with the gross and subtle, and then we arrive at subtle. Then we proceed towards subtle objects, and then we proceed towards the self. In Asampravyata Samadhi, it involves meditation with no object. One becomes transcendental to all sorts of happiness derived from the senses.
So here, just also explain that the Cheto Darpana Marjana, that is the verse from Sikshashtaka, is telling about the cleansing of the heart or the mind. And otherwise, this Bhaumaha Davagni Nirvapana, which is material existence compared to an ocean. And also it is compared to a forest fire. When there is a huge forest fire, the only way to douse that is the pouring of rain. So this Sankirtana process is the way to purify our consciousness so that we have the right type of desires. So we have our basic necessities of life that can be fulfilled in the proper way, but at the same time, one has to pursue a devotional life. Another warning has been given that sometimes people think that they can become God or the super soul. So from that point onwards, they think I don't need any direction from God. I am myself and God. But that is the very fatal for the soul, because even if the soul achieves the spiritual world, he has to take guidance from other devotees. He is always guided by the Supreme Lord, just like Arjuna was guided by Krishna on the battlefield. So this yoga is trying to establish a firm connection between the soul and the super soul. And ultimately, one has to connect with the Supreme Lord. So till that time, this Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. These are the four Purusharthas. Purusha means our tendency to enjoy is there in all the living entities. So how does he get the enjoyment? First, he wants to follow the rules. He knows that if I follow the rules only, just like a dog is there, it is very obedient to the master. But its intention is, if I obey the master, I will get my food. So here we see everyone are very meticulously doing their things. We go around, everyone is busy going to the lab, going to the whatever they are doing, very busy. But what for? They are also following very strictly the rules, dharma, according to the artha. They want something they are expecting out of that, following the rules. Why they? What will get that artha? The kama. They can enjoy, and what they are thinking, if I enjoy, I'll get moksha, which means although I'm suffering now, in comparison to that suffering, this happiness will mitigate that suffering. So everyone knows, has experience of suffering in this world, but still why they are working hard, they think that in the midst of all this suffering, some happiness will come. That is also enough for me. At least I cannot solve the problems. Along this problem, if I get some happiness, then it's okay. So how to get that happiness? I will follow the rules very strictly, and then, but this is not going to give happiness. The Pancha Purushartha is mentioned, that is to devotional service. That is real liberation. The real liberation means when one is situated in his constitutional position or Swarup Siddhi. Swarup Siddhi is when he understands his relationship with Krishna and acts in that relationships and develops love of God. Any questions on this discussion so far? We discussed nearly 5 verses, 18, 19, and 20, 21, 22. So almost 6 verses we discussed, very important verses. So each of you can share one point what you gathered from this discussion. सनिश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगो निर्विण्णचेतसाम् संकल्प प्रभवान् कामां त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् अशेषतः मनसेवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with the determination. So this is the next step, Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya. One has to be enthusiastic and one has to be Nishchaya, means determined. Dhairya means patient. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. It means you should be assured that, you be convinced that this process is what I should be doing and I will achieve the goal. What is the goal? We want perfection. Even the devotee doesn't want to lose anything material also. He wants to be successful in material also. But he knows that it's not possible unless we succeed spiritually or devotionally. So that is his faith, that by practicing devotion, I'll attain all perfection and not be deviated from the path. So these 3 things he has to do. One is to be determined in the practice of yoga, and he has to have faith. So this faith is something which will take him to the goal. It is the foundation. Just like if you build a huge skyscraper building, It is resting on a very strong foundation. So this faith is got from proper association, and then he will remain undeviated from the path. One should abandon without exception. Just like if a pot is there, a huge pot is there, and you have put all the nectar in that. Even a small hole is there, in the course of time, everything will drain out. So, like that, also we saw in the example in the second chapter that even one of the senses can carry away the mind of the transcendentalist. Just like a boat is there on the previously they used to use sailboats, and if they don't control the wind, easily the boat will get toppled over. So the example also is given of a tortoise, withdraws all its limbs. So like that, we have to know how to withdraw. It means what is good for me, what is not good. One person has to decide very quickly. One should abandon without exception. Even one of the senses, like Shaubri Muni, she was explaining, he was submerged inside water, but still he got distracted by what he saw. So all material desires born of mental speculation. So we may say, okay, so many desires are coming, should I keep quiet? They seem to be all very important. Why I should not, at least some of them I cannot fulfill. But here it is explained born of mental speculation, which means the mind makes you think that this is wanted for you. Just like you go and people advertise, make you feel that it is most important for you, need it. But it's actually a distraction. So this mind creates a desire which ultimately will not make us happy, and thus control all the senses and all sides by the mind. So although the senses are trying to, just like the horses in a chariot, they are pulling the chariot, trying to pull the chariot in their own way. But the mind is compared to the reins of the horse. So with that, the intelligence is said to be the driver. So the driver has to control with the help of the mind the senses. Then it can, with the same material senses also, one can reach the goal of life.
Hare Krishna. So this section, we are starting a new section, which is 24 to 32. In this section, it is described how to attain the attaining of perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. How do we realize the Supreme? So the first lesson, that is 24-25, is talking about the method of attaining the yoga rule stage. In the previous shloka, we have seen what happens when we achieve the yoga rule stage. And the good thing is that this method that is being described is the same that is there for Bhakti Yoga. To do anything, one needs to have faith. The simple act of walking, we leave the foot from the ground in one place with the confidence that the other foot is going to be able to take our weight, the ground will not shake, and we'll be able to put the first foot back on the ground. That is, without that faith, if suppose we are in any shaky place, we are trying to catch a boat, and that jetty, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, that, the water that has made that jetty wet, and there's some silt on it, and you try to catch, so if you put your foot on the wet wood with some silt on it, it can stick. So then you be very, very careful to remove the leg from one part and put it on the other part. We have to first see that the other leg will not skid and it will remain. So we cannot be on shaky ground. Faith is like that. We need to be on firm ground. If you are coming here and thinking, does God really exist? What am I doing here? Everybody is out enjoying in sun. What am I doing sitting over here? Then that is not faith. I mean, appreciate it that you have sacrificed the sun time and you have come here and you are trying to hear two old people talking about some body of it. But the good thing about that is, by doing that sacrifice, what you will get is much more lasting peace than what they are getting. I mean, from the place where we parked the car till the time we reached the room, in that much time I got a headache. I don't know how people take that. It is difficult to someone like me to take it. And I was asking her, how long does this continue? Since when this is going on? I'm getting not getting. What is happening? Why so much of music? And actually, that music is nonsense music. And I don't know whether you know this. When there's something called rock music, and there's something called hard rock. Hard rock, I am trying to hear for precisely less than a minute. Once, when I was also in college, or just going to college, and we were one of those inter-school fests and all that, and some hard rock program, something was there. I entered and I came
आप गेट पे
this is not me. I can't
आपको रोक
hear
देंगे
because if I enter this place and actually art rock was created for a purpose. It was created during World War II. And the purpose of that was the person who hears this becomes so bad. It going through whoever's illegal words. Actually, I'm not sure. That was the purpose. You can go and you can go research on history. You can go over the work of art rock. Music or sound has a very important effect on us. So if we are, like say, we lot of times speak out, we are doing this Java, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Sometimes it becomes so much of a word, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare, one mantra only, now how many more to do? Sometimes in that time it starts dragging, and then you start thinking, does it really work? I mean, I'm doing this, I am not getting into benefit. People say, once you take the name of Krishna, you are done. But I have taken names so many times, I'm still not done. Then why do you want to keep on taking it? So somebody when they asked, I think, I don't remember who, and that person's response, I don't know, maybe it was Prabhuji, that person's response was, no, what are you wearing? How do you compare? Did you even see how he's involved in it? And obviously, you know, that person starts feeling very bad. Says, you get bad? Yes. Why do you get bad? Because of my words. So, with words, if you get me bad, with words, if you not feel good, remember you look so pretty. Think about it, I've seen you already so long. The whole thing changes. Stop feeling bad, you know, why I just came after so long, after seeing me after a month and part, she starts scolding me and, you know, derogatory way, he's discussing my appearance. Don't let it do with a mental note never again. I will not come here. 3%, not 3%, doesn't matter. I am not coming here. But in the same words, if you use in a different way or use different set of words, then the impact is different. It will happen to us instantaneously. How it will not happen when we are taking the Lord's name. And a lot of times I have thought like that. If somebody also keeps on calling my name, I can listen to it. That, you know, why are you calling my name so many times? What is it that you want? What are you doing? And not one person, so many people at the same time. Doesn't God get everything? But no, what he says, the way to reach me in this state is simply take my name incessantly, non-stop. So the way to fall out of it is simply to make this name. That is all he wants. He is not saying, do this for me, do that for me, do this, I expect this from you, I expect that from you. He's not saying any of it. He's saying a simple thing. Always take my name. To take my name, no qualification is required. To say Hare Krishna, you don't have to be a PhD. Even uneducated person can say. Even any language, if you are not bound by any language, then you have to be a scholar in Sanskrit to be able to say Hare Krishna. Anyone can say. Any language person can say. The words are also simple. It is not, you know, complicated Sanskrit. Sometimes when we are trying to recite the shlokas, we find difficulty in some words. There is no complicated Sanskrit. Hare Krishna Ram, that's all. So easy to say. Once in Vrindavan morning chanting, after the Mangala Arati, we sitting at the temple and we were chanting. Matajis were sitting in one place, Prabhuji were sitting in one place. So when the Matajis were sitting, I sat beside me was a foreigner Mataji, and she, like before chanting, she sat herself properly. She sat on a nice cushion kind of a place, and then she took some photos of the deities in front of her, and then she started chanting. And when she started chanting, I started looking at her because what she was saying was not something like Hare Krishna Ram. And but she was chanting. And then after some time I said it, you hear your voice. Instead of trying to hear her voice, you are also chanting, no? And then I also started hearing my voice. But that was like a preconceived. Even I have heard a lot of foreigners chanting. They chant very nicely. They able to chant these three words. It is not difficult for them to chant. Because how much facility he has given us. Simply take my simplest of needs. And I'm approachable. Direct. It's like a hotline. Direct, you can approach God right in photo. Simply by taking this seat. And by doing that, and if you are hearing, your power of concentration also improves. If you try to do chanting in the morning, hearing yourself chant, then you come and you attend any of the classes or lectures that you're supposed to be doing the whole day. Your concentration, your hearing capacity improves significantly. If you're trying to do research, whatever you are reading, the absorption is a lot better. It all starts with morning chanting. The better you chant in the morning, the better you will do even the material activities. Try to do that. I don't know how many of you are trying to do that. Morning is very important. Don't waste that time. This kind of music, you hear you go mad. You will sleep registered at 10 in the night. So you will sleep after that only. And then some people, that is the time for them to whatever, make more money. And then by the time they sleep, they wake up late. You are missing the most crucial part of the day. Don't do that. The earlier you wake up, the better. And wake up and don't just wake up. And start moving and go to the wake up and chant. And hear yourself. That is the best way. Try doing that and observe your output that way. It will be much better. Much better. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, here it is mentioned about practicing with enthusiasm, patience, and determination. So how does this come? That is also explained by following the prescribed duties. Some prescriptions are given, just like the doctor is recommending some diet or some medicine. We follow that and we get cured. So there is some process, as she was explaining, in the morning, chanting, attending classes, association, hearing. These are the recommended practices. We just have to follow them. And then in the association of devotees. Why? Because otherwise it's very difficult to practice something alone, or especially when the association is not very favorable. So we have to make a choice to get into that association so that we can practice this with determination. And also by engaging completely in activities of goodness. So Shato Vritti, it is said. Shato Vritti means whatever is conducive, that we have to. So the example is given of the sparrow which lost its eggs. A sparrow was there, it laid its eggs on the shore of an ocean. So when the ocean waves came, they dragged the eggs into the water. You might have seen some the New Year's Day also, some people went for swimming and they were in a drunken state. Because of that, they got drowned. But even in that condition, the body will come back to the shore. So why it is like that? Because the ocean is also personified. There's a personality behind the ocean. He also follows the rules very carefully. So this sparrow understood, the sparrow treated the ocean to be a person. And so it demanded the ocean. So even a intelligent sparrow can understand that there's a person behind the ocean. So it demanded him to give back the eggs. But the ocean thought, such a small bird, why I should accept its request? It ignored it. So then the bird decided that I will drain this ocean with my beak. I will take out drops from this ocean. Although it is impossible, it tried something from its effort. There was a video also. Suddenly one snake tried to come and attack the offspring of some bird. That mother started furious. It became furious, although it is insignificant compared to that venomous snake. It tried its best to show its displeasure. So then the snake understood and went away. So like this bird tried its best to offend that ocean and said that if you don't return my eggs, I will drain you. So everyone started laughing at this bird. He was trying the impossible thing. Then the news gradually spread to Garuda. Garuda understood, sympathized with this bird. Oh, he belongs to my family and now he is in danger. I should help him. So he came and he said that I will flap my wings and dry up this ocean. So then the ocean became, ocean understood. So he said he will call once he reaches. So this ocean understood that it's a serious matter and it returned its eggs. So they also know the laws of nature. They cannot go against it. So carefully he could return the eggs. So this is the example to show how this determination comes in the association of other devotees. So when we are practicing devotion, Lord is taking note of that. And he will reciprocate definitely. And that is the reason for the success in this process. Last word. Shane Shane Ruparame. Shane Shane Ruparame. Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya. Buddhaya Dhriti Grihitaya. Atma Samstam Anakritva. Atma Samstam Anakritva. Nakinchit Apichintaye. Nakinchit Apichintaye. Shane Shane Ruparame. Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya. Atma Samstam Anakritva. Nakinchit Apichintaye. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance. So this is a step-by-step process. Just like when we're eating some food, it is step by step so that you relish. Three effects are there while you eat. One is hunger comes down and you get nourished and satisfied. So like this, at each step you start experiencing these benefits. One becomes situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction. So he is a very intelligent person who is able to realize the benefits of performing yoga, and because he is fully convinced, because he invested some effort in building his faith, that return he gets back in the form of conviction. And thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone. So here self means the Supreme Self. One and should think of nothing else. So it's like a positive and negative statement. What is the conclusion of all scriptures? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. That is the rule. All rules and regulations are abiding by this one simple rule, that we should always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna.
Hare Krishna. This shloka is very important for us to understand that nothing happens overnight. Like they say a lot of times at the Bhagavad Gita, I know it is mentioned that one name of Krishna is enough. But have you taken that one name? How to take that one name? The way globally for about. I mean, the calling out like that, this time you don't come now, I'm done. I mean, are we thinking like that? We are even the go to the temple, who said definitely a bhoga ho jayega. What we do, we work. Otherwise, if it's too crowded, we work. I could not sit about I no. Over that is the kind of devotion we have. Always are blessing the Lord. Every time I walk up Tirupati, by the time we reach the Lord, I am sitting here again beside me, left of me, right of me, and Prabhu keeps on saying, why don't you concentrate on the Lord? And as people see, look at what people are pushing, I'm not able to concentrate on it. We are not concentrated. We are forever trying to see our comfort first, me first. If I am comfortable, I go to temple. The moment I enter, I will take a garden. Then I will go and I will do, darshan of the deities. then I'm okay. We are used to that. And if we go to any temple where, sometimes it happens that we are standing in the line and we are stopped, and some VIP is come and that VIP is taken to the second of one temples. So then we start feeling so angry at the way. But if we are there, we are thinking, we don't mind at all. That is the issue. I am very important. We are not even taking the name of the Lord from the people. We are not able to take the name of the Lord the way Draupadi took the name of the Lord. Because she took the name of the Lord became a silent. Endless silent. Somebody like Dushasana was not able to hold that silent. It was endless and endless and endless. Because she is named with that desperation. We don't have that desperation. Because it is what I am. As we get no problem. We don't have that, so there, because we don't have, what is the other way? It is step by step, slowly it will happen. Because we are also slow, we are also taking care in our life. So they are not able to give you enough time, no problem. Slowly, slowly, we will also progress. As much as you do, you will progress that much. And then no scope of zero, you cannot see what you are notes and you can see. That's not possible. Because he's saying it no heart. He knows exactly what you are doing and then how you are doing. So we can pretend to be a very big devotee. But if nothing is internal, he's sitting in the heart. He's not seeing whatever externally or doing. He's seeing the God how you are doing. So this connect is very, very relevant for us to understand. And we need to be very determined. And we need to understand that every struggles from this path. From your hostel room to go to the lab, also there is a struggle. Sometimes I don't know if you haven't had this system, if you are really too busy, you have to wait for your turn to take off and to get ready and to go. And then you have to drive your cycle and you have to go. Then you have to find a place to park the cycle, and sometimes somebody like me drives and all the cycles fall on each other. So then you have to find your cycle in the middle of that and take it out. There is a struggle. And then something or the other happens to the cycle. Things keep happening. Every day you want to say there is a struggle to do anything material. So why there will be no struggle to do something spiritual? Why do you expect a nicely marble paved highway just because you are trying to do something for God? It is not going to happen. There will be struggle for that we need to have, and there will be taking time because we are taking time. So we need to have the determination. And so step by step, we should become situated in trance by our intelligence. So at every stage, we are supposed to use our intelligence. A lot of people say, we will take Lord's name when the Lord wants, when the Lord mercy is there. Because they are smart answers. They think they are very smart. Lord has given you intelligence, so use it. He has given you the power to discriminate what is right, what is wrong. And he has given you education. Use it. A lot of times, especially sometimes some devotees have this habit. Devotees when start going to office at 10 o'clock or 10:30. Should I do this? Should I do that? Every small thing. This Radha Prabhu says that one Prabhu is to this to him. So much detail there are syllabus. Every step they want guidance. And what that Prabhu did? One Friday he went home, he got married to a girl, his mother goes and came back. That time Prabhu was not required. That time he had to call us to Prabhuji. My mother is confident work today, but 10 or 10:30 also is asking that much. There are people. So we have to use our intelligence. And sometimes it has happened. Once it happened with me, I called up my Mataji for some or the other thing. Mataji, I'm having this doubt many years ago. And our answer was, God has given you intelligence. It is for use. Use it. And that's why I'm repeating. I remember what she said. That our intelligence is supposed to be used and used in the service of Krishna. It doesn't harm our intelligence. Please use your intelligence to discriminate and to control the mind and to have the conviction. Sometimes to have conviction also one needs intelligence. We are not Because the mind is taking us in another direction. And the fact is, because in front of us at that point in time, looks like what quantity. No, nothing is working on. To keep the faith at that time is very important. And to keep the faith, intelligence plays a very important role. Intelligence says mind is taking you around. This is calm down. That is very important. That you understand it is the mind which is taking risks. So let me not give it to the mind. Let me just wait this waves will pass. It is like waves in the ocean. The wave that comes will go back. Next wave will come. 100% it will come. But wait for that wave to go back. This wave is just there to disturb us. And when we start realizing that all these things that keep happening are just like waves in the ocean, they will come one after the other. We should just be undeviated on our path. This is when we start walking on the path. It's not when we achieve perfection. It's when we start walking on the path. And that is amazing.
So another important word here is pratyahara, which means we have to fulfill our senses as much as ahara means food for the senses. That has to be regulated. How much you see, smell, taste, touch, and hear, hands, legs, and all these have to be regulated by proper engagement. With this last verse will end. Yato yato nischalati.
Yato yato nischalati.
Yato yato nischalati.
Yato yato nischalati.
Manas chanchalam astiram.
Manas chanchalam astiram.
Manas chanchalam astiram.
Manas chanchalam astiram.
Tatastato niyamyaita.
Tatastato niyamyeta.
Tatastato niyamyaita.
Tatastato niyamyeta.
Atmanyeva vasham naye.
Atmanyeva vasham naye.
Atmanyeva vasham naye.
Atmanyeva vasham naye.
From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature. So this is already defined that the mind is flickering and unsteady because it has to be like that. It is designed like that. Just like on the waves on the ocean. If they are not like that, the ocean also, the boat also cannot move. But what the yogi should do, from wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it. So the endeavor has to be done by us only. Nobody else is going to come and control our mind. We are responsible for our mind. And one certainly has to withdraw it, which means there's no other option. And bring it back under the control of the self. So that is our responsibility to tame the mind. Because we already read that the mind is both the friend and the enemy. The uncontrolled mind is the enemy and the controlled mind is the best friend.
So this shloka is also called the success formula in yoga. How do we get success? Because we all know mind is the problem, the culprit is the mind. So and the mind doesn't have to be going around the world and taking us around the world. Wherever it is going, bring it back. Again it will go, again bring it back. It will go 100 meters, bring back 100 meters. It will go 1 kilometer, bring back 1 kilometer. It will go and you bring it back. Because what is the nature of the mind? Chanchalam astiram. Chanchal means it is flickering. Astiram means it is unsteady. It will not stay in one place. So the mind has these characteristics. From there, you have to withdraw the mind and bring it back under the control of the self. So once it happened, I think there was World Cup cricket going on, and India-Pakistan final. I think that was what it was. India-Pakistan final. And that time, I had gone to Mayapur. That night when the final was there. So the big group had gone. So when after going to Mayapur, after Prasadam, and it was not happening in India because the timing difference was there. It was around 8, 9 in the night, or something like that. And the match was 21. So when I was part of the group, we all went out of the campus and we went to some tea shop or someplace where there was a small TV. And we stood there and we saw part of the match. And I don't remember who won. Because then we came back and next day the who had taken us, he came to know, or maybe after we came back, he came to know that something like this had happened. Some people had gone and they had seen the match and they came back. And it was, I think, Bhakti Shastri class, and he asked for them. So quite a few hands went up. Yes, he went. And he was mad at us. He was, you were so wild for the world, did you understand match? So he said, yeah, I didn't know what we did. So when he said, how can you do this? And I think he quoted this book after that. Then after all the story, then he had to pet us also. So okay, the mind you went there, you came back. And then following your game of okay. So when you go in a group, especially places like Mayapur, there's a lot of bonding that happens. It's not just a, a lot of time late night also people will sit outside their rooms in groups and people will be talking and discussing. Or even doing bhajan or bhajan or something. So actually we went back and the Mataji's house where I used to go for her picnic, that Mataji had also gone. So we went back and we all sat with her and we were discussing some things like normally we were discussing what difficulties we face or some small conversations we have. We were discussing with her and then we finally went back to the room. So when the scolding happened, after that small voice told me that this is what we also do. So then he was having, he quoted this book and he said, okay, so you all went out, but you all came back and you were still discussing with them. So, okay. And next one, you are caught up to Mangalam. But don't do it. Not when you are in mind. If it was so important to attend the match, don't do it that night. So that is how, I remember pricing it.
So in conclusion, here it says, Sarvopadi Vinamvaktam Satparatven Nirmadam Ishikena Ishike Sevanam Bhakta Ruttam. So what is the practical way of controlling the mind? Is the engaging the senses. The senses only are distracting the mind. So to control the mind, the solution is the senses only. So that is, they have to be always engaged. That we saw in the beginning, how Maharaja Ambarish, although he is emperor having so many duties to perform, still he made it a point to engage all of his senses as an individual. That effort we only have to put. The circumstances of other people are not going to help us with our problem. Our problem is ours. So the solution is also in our hands, that is to constantly engage our senses. Okay, with this we'll stop here. Any comments, questions?
Please ask.
Regarding the program?
Yeah, but handle it. They want to, because everything is not here. Different people are not there.
Just help him to distribute the beats. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Advaita Gadadhara,
Shri Advaita Gadadhara,
Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda,
Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Advaita Gadadhara,
Shri Advaita Gadadhara,
Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Sreenivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So it's a festive season, as you all know. Today is the Sankranti period. The sun changes its month. A very auspicious time. Also, know Bhishma left his body around this time. Sarayana. So, ISKCON Chennai is celebrating the Madhura Mahotsava or the Kirtan Mela. As we know, Kirtan is very important in this age of Kali, as recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which glorifies the Lord through singing His names. So that program is there from tomorrow, next 3 days, 15, 16, 17. On 15th, we have the Adivas ceremony or the invocation. That will be in the afternoon, 4 o'clock onwards. So many great singers, few sannyasis, Prabhupada disciples, and Kirtan leaders are coming. So it was held last year also, this is the second year. So please register for this program. It is free, registration is free, and try to come and render some service or participate and take prasad in this important festival. And the next, on the 18th, we are invited His Holiness Indradumna Swami, about whose program we have advertised. So I think they have not yet put up the posters. I request you, please put up the posters. So it should have been done already. I don't know why the delay. So send a reminder email at least tomorrow. Around 180 for prasadam and 130 for registration. So, but still, please send a reminder mail tomorrow and put up the posters. Okay, so it's very rare. It's already 75 almost. So they are growing old. We have done a lot of preaching worldwide. He has done Kirtan programs. So he's coming. Very fortunate to have him here. And along with him, some group will be accompanying him, and also they'll be dancing on the stage and some lecture, life lessons, whatever he has gathered over these years. He joined at a very young age.
He took sannyas at the age of 29. He's an American born. He was studying in the university. He was married also, but he dedicated his life for this purpose in the early 70s. Very interesting how he came to Krishna consciousness and how he remained and reaches all over the world in under very difficult circumstances, South Africa and all these places, where there is always some kind of an opposition. And much more you can talk about him. So please make it a point to come yourself. See, in this program, very less attendance. Why? Even till day we see people struggling. Even now who attend our program, they are doing PhD, postdoc, or whatever job they are, still they are upside down because of very poor sadhana. So if you don't practice now, it will become more and more difficult. Eventually you lose it. So that's most unfortunate. So don't miss this opportunity. Please come and bring others also. At least one person you can bring. We have done maximum publicity possible, but still people come through personal invitation. At least you come. Then what's the point if you yourself don't come? Or where you can expect new people to come? So take it to heart as the first program almost for the year, and try to sir came with so much difficulty. I think you might have been stopped at the gate, and still he came, took a bus at his age. Oh, okay. But you were allowed to come inside, no? Okay. So with so much for his age, he's taking the interest to come. So you young people sitting inside and not coming is not good sign. You won't realize this importance of this. You are thinking it's a part of life. But this is the only thing in life. Once you go out, you'll see. Recently, Saurabh Prabhu is in Germany. He got a 6-month postdoc option. He's feeling miserable in the first few days itself. So cold, people drinking, smoking, everything outside openly. And professors are also very strict or whatever. So from the outside, it looks very glittery, this world. The moment you put your hand into it, it's very dangerous. Unless you are formed up now itself at this young age, it's going to be very difficult. Hare Krishna. So we'll do the Aarti. Is it allowed to do the Aarti here?
Yes, we did one so.
Okay. So please join us for the Aarti. We got it a bit delayed. So Prasadam also, difficulty we are bringing from outside.
So we have ordered for 30 people because less than that it was not taken. If we knew only so many, I